History Channel.
The same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to because I'm so confused. It was my cat. But it wasn't.
Longer than the one we're given.
You got some of their, some of the
All right, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Today is an historic day for me. It's the 9th time I've done this, and I can't be prouder of the members of the House of Representatives. Today we passed a balanced budget, which is essential. Today we protected the surpluses that we have for a rainy day, and that's crucial between balancing the money that we have, our financial resources, between the spending that we're able to do to protect that for our children and future generations so that we don't go into the red. Also, for the first time in 9 years, we reduced spending from the prior year. So we are not growing the budget, but we are continuing to invest in critical resources for infrastructure, education, healthcare, and public safety. I can't be more proud of the Budget Committee, the Budget Chair, Cody Smith, the Governor's staff, the Lincoln Huff over in the Senate staff that helped put this together. It's been a collaborative effort between the Senate, the House, and the Governor's office to put this together, and my hat's off to Cody Smith for wrapping it all up and putting a nice bow on it and putting Missouri in the right direction for years to come.
The $17.5 million for the World Cup that's in the budget, what exactly is that being used for, and is any of that going to be used for security measures, especially in the wake of the parade shooting that happened?
I'm going to defer to the Budget Chair for the details of how that will be spent.
Yes, so to answer your question, I think it is not limited to and could include security. It can include transportation, it can include promotion. It's for all of those things. And so certainly that event will be a very large event. Security will be paramount. Also things like transportation to and from the event is important. As I understand it, there will be hotel rooms booked up within 200 miles of the Kansas City area, and people will be traveling back and forth, and security will be very important. So yes, I think it is including security, but not limited to.
And is that going directly to the Jackson County Authority, or who exactly is that?
No, there's an entity that they've organized amongst various stakeholders that it should receive it if it goes through as planned.
What are you happy with in this budget? What are you pleased with? What are you disappointed with not in falling short with in this budget?
So I'm happy that the budget is balanced, that our ongoing expenditures are fitting within our revenue estimates, and so we are focusing on sustainability. We're not setting ourselves up for budget shortfalls. We also have a large surplus left over, what we call a bottom line of $1.5 billion as an unexpended general revenue to allow for any growth or needed growth in the budget that isn't supported by ongoing revenues or for future capital projects, those types of things. A rainy day fund, for the lack of a better way to say it. So we've got a balanced budget, we've got less spending than we do have last year, and we've got a healthy rainy day fund. And so I think that package is what I'm most proud of. I'm not really, I guess if you say there was one particular project or initiative within the budget that I'm most happy with, it would be the I-44 repair and reconstruction. I travel 44 all the time, so I'm reminded of it twice a week. It is well in need. It's a very heavily trafficked major artery in the state, and so to be able to widen it to 6 lanes into various places and rebuild it will be helpful to everyone. The thing that I'm least pleased about is the way that this process has unfolded this year. I think that the lack of a conference committee and kind of the way things were here at the last couple weeks, although I think we have a very good final product, I think our process is something that left something to be desired. And I don't leave anybody, I don't hold anybody in the House at fault for that, but things sometimes work out in ways differently than what you planned. But at the end of the day, we've delivered a very good package for Missouri taxpayers, and I'm proud of that.
So speaking on I-44, unlike last year with I-70, this is something that the governor did not ask for, these expenditures. And Parson vetoed over $500 million in things last year's budget. Are there concerns that the I-44 money might be on the chopping block?
I would let you ask him that. Won't speak for him. My hope is that he would be supportive of this. Obviously, when he came into office, his priorities were transportation, infrastructure, and workforce development. And if I had a nickel for every time he said those words, I, might not be in the Missouri House anymore. I am supportive of that agenda, and I think this is just a nice, big crowning achievement for him to end his time in the governor's office to have rebuilt 2 of the major interstates in the state of Missouri. And so I'm hopeful that he will support it, and I think we've structured it in a way that is fiscally responsible, that leaves, again, that healthy bottom line, so that we're not breaking the bank to do it. And so I'm hopeful that he would be supportive of it.
And if I may, I'll say that,
Can you get
Interstate,
in the mic then, so I can
sure.
hear it? Thank you.
Interstate 70 doesn't serve all Missourians directly, right? As our budget chair said, he's on Interstate 44, there's other people on 70. But if you look at what we did, last year, it was hard to get people that don't live along 70 to want to vote for 70. They said, what about my area? And if you look at the budget we put together this year, it helps complement what we did last year. Significant investment in 44. Also 67 down to Poplar Bluff. Also $100 million in rural roads. So we're spreading the resources across Missouri to ensure that all Missourians have access to safe roads.
I want to piggyback off that real quick for I-44. This number that's in here, this $727 million, it's a little bit less than what the House sub originally had in it. Is this still enough money to do what you originally planned of expanding it from Joplin to Rolla? Is this still, is this $727 million still enough?
I believe it is, and we are, because of the way that MoDOT has done their borrowing through their bonding authority, we've been able to actually spend less than we thought we would. And so it will take a little bit less than what we initially projected, but I believe that we will still get those things done at that number.
I want to ask about the use of one-time funds. The House budget, when it left here, had $800 million of general revenue designated as one-time. Now it's up to $1.3 billion. It's understandable that something like I-44 is one-time, but there's $336 million of general revenue in the managed care Medicaid line that is designated as one-time. Why would anybody think that you aren't going to continue to spend that money in the Medicare managed care line?
I think you would expect that we will. It is my hope that our Medicaid program will be contained and maybe start to level out or maybe even be further reduced over the course of time. With the pandemic and kind of the high water mark of Missouri Medicaid rolls, I think we've seen it, maybe get as large as it will be in the next subsequent several years, and I think it will continue to kind of go down and then ultimately settle. Knock on wood, barring that we don't have any other events that would unnecessarily kind of inflate those Medicaid rolls. And so the one-time nature of all of these appropriations, including those, is kind of a budgeting measure that we are saying we're going to pay for it now. We may make different decisions later. So you see, if it's not a capital project that is one time, I would say that's the more of the thinking, and the same in this case.
And there's dozens of other little one-time items. There's some as small as $1,200, and they're not even general revenue. Why did you designate those kinds of things as one-time when the idea is to keep the general revenue bottom line?
Well, the designation of anything one time, again, is just a signal to the world that we're paying for it this year, may not do it again next year. We may or may not. I'm not familiar with the $1,200 one-time appropriation that you mentioned. It does bring a smile to my face. But organizationally, we're trying to go through, clean these bills up, make sure that we agree what's ongoing, what's one time. I think there's a big difference to be had there. And again, the way that people understand how these things may continue over the course of time, it's important to organize these things, and we've probably done more of that this year as a way to, again, signal to the world we've had relatively flat revenues and consider or expect those to be the case here in this next fiscal year. We don't know exactly what it might look like in FY26, but we are preparing for that to continue to be the case. I do expect that we will have some revenue growth after this next fiscal year, but in the short term, revenues are flat, and if they continue to be flat, then we are well prepared for that.
So
On the process,
there's a $2.5 million appropriation in the public safety budget for firearms, AI, firearms detection technology in schools that I think you inserted that.
I'm sorry, did you say it's whose?
AI,
Yeah.
artificial intelligence, firearm detection.
Yeah, I thought I heard you say the word Google, and
No,
you didn't. Okay, I'm sorry.
AI,
Yeah.
firearms detection in schools.
Schools, that's it.
At schools.
Yes, thank you.
I think that came from you.
It did.
Tell me why that's in there, and can you speak to the fact it may be going to a particular company?
It is not intended for one particular company. I'll start there. It would be put up for competitive bid, just like many of these things. Obviously, school safety is of paramount importance to us, and you've seen us take measures to increase school safety over the years here in Missouri, especially recently. I think as technology develops and it continues to provide new solutions to help keep schools more safe, we'll be investing in those as a General Assembly. This is just an example of that. So where we can use artificial intelligence through security camera networks to identify guns, if that is something that can help Missouri Public Schools be more safe, I'm for it, and we've found a place for it in the budget. As it relates to any specific vendor, I think, as I understand, there are many companies or several that offer this type of product. That's all downstream of me, and I just want it to work. I don't really care about that as much.
On the process,
Yes.
there was a lot of frustration, I feel like from everyone, how it went this year, as far as no conference committee, not being able to collaborate. And that actually goes to Governor Parson too, who expressed frustration that he wasn't able to see it before yesterday. Do you think that's going to lead to kind of more scrutiny on his end, because now he's finally able to look through it when it comes to seeing what goes through and what gets vetoed?
I know that he scrutinizes the budget carefully, he and his staff, and they will find a lot of familiarity in the bills, things that we've worked on in the past over the last several years, and not a lot of necessarily new concepts or things there. But they do need to take their time, read the bills, understand the legislation. I'm happy to make myself available to explain legislative intent as always. But I don't know that it would necessarily make him more critical of anything. I do understand his frustration. Believe me, I share that with him. But now we're here. We have legislation to be read and considered and understood. Time for them to ask questions of us, to understand what we intend to do. And that is really not unusual. I mean, leading up to this point, I would say that, the budget is probably 90% of what it was in the middle of March when we dropped our committee substitutes in the House Budget Committee. So it's not as new or fresh as it may seem, given the way this unfolded.
During Florida Day, you highlighted the increase in rates for nursing homes, but looking at the DESI budget, and maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like the rate increase for child care providers that the governor asked for was not included in the budget. And can you tell me why?
It is included in the budget. Yeah, we took the House position there, which raises those rates. I think it's 100% for infants and toddlers, and maybe 85% for the rest of the kids that are within the child care subsidy parameters. So we paid for it a little bit differently than the governor recommended. But if you go back and look at that, it's essentially the House Bill 2 position with slightly modified language that actually enables the Office of Childhood to make rate increases based on the next market rate survey or study that comes out.
Is this one of those places where you use lower utilization to afford the higher rates?
Absolutely, yeah. So DESI always asks for 100% utilization within each of the appropriations requests they make, and I think that's an abundance of caution. They don't want to run short. I get that. But we've taken a critical look at that and understood that utilization is far less than 100%. We've allowed for a little bit of increased utilization over the course of this fiscal year, and that is all paid for inside of the House position on child care subsidy. But at the same time, we're raising those provider rates.
You can tell the budget is rushed because I found several wording errors in 2020, some including one where it was a business center that was supposed to be in a city, but it says business center city, a domestic violence shelter that just says domestic shelter. Are you worried that will cause those items to be vetoed, or do you think that the governor will have to bring you back for a special session at some point to fix any of the budget items?
Well, first of all, I will say that there are always elements of human error in all pieces of legislation, right? And that is not limited to the budget bills. As hard as we try and as good as and diligent as our staff is, and they're very, very great and fine at the jobs, we do have just human error that occurs. I haven't detected a greater level of it than usual, but inevitably you'll have that to some degree. I'm hopeful that this would not disqualify any of those appropriations from coming to fruition, but it is at the governor's, if he would decide that there was anything there important enough for us to come back and re-appropriate it again for, you know, I'm sure that we would respond to that. I'm hopeful that that is not a need.
I want to ask about,
Require a special session?
No.
all right, I want to ask, I have a question for you, Representative Smith, and then a different question about IP for Walker. First off, yesterday when we asked Governor Mike Parson after the after the bill signing about the budget, he got pretty frustrated that there was $8 million going to the National Guard. He said that he plans on vetoing that. He said that straight up, and none of us expected that. So that $8 million that's in there, he said he didn't ask for it. Was that a House position, and if so, why was it?
It was, yeah, and it was just a continuation of the efforts that he has initiated by sending the National Guard to the Texas border to assist with Operation Lone Star. What we have now, and what he recently signed, was a supplemental budget request that gets us through the end of this fiscal year. That's through the end of June. I suspect that the mission won't be over when it comes to July 1, and so we are appropriating again for another 12 months of that effort if there is a need for it, and if he sees fit to continue to maintain that presence there, or have to send them again in FY25. So it's not it's nothing more than that. It's just a supportive appropriation to continue that effort. We obviously feel that border security is very important, and this is a response to that. So I view that more as following his lead into the next fiscal year, and I hope that he would receive it that way.
I would echo that. I mean, I think it's prudent planning. I think the citizens of Missouri have said over and over again that illegal immigration is concerning. 10 million immigrants illegally across the border recently. I believe at his news conference he had at the signing of the Planned Parenthood bill, which again, we're proud. No money in this budget is going to go to Planned Parenthood. We are putting money in the budget, though, to make sure that we are sending money out for Operation Lone Star at his request. I believe the number, and I could be wrong, but yesterday I believe he said that our troops have sequestered 4,000 individuals that have crossed the border illegally, and in that 4,000 there were 5,000 non-citizen illegal immigrants that were on the federal watch list. So five were on the federal watch list. That's crucial. I mean, they're doing their job, they're protecting the United States, and importantly, they're protecting Missouri. I think this is forward thinking. If they're good to be there now, why aren't they good to be there in September, October? Rather than call us in for a special, we already allocated it if the governor so chooses to fund it.
I want to ask about IP now, and what I want to ask about it is the Senate is expected, and we've heard that next week the goal is to show up Monday and to take it up. We've heard from Democrats who say they will filibuster until 6 p.m. on Friday. Your thought on that, and if they do send it back without the ballot candy, what happens?
That's just one more reason why I'm glad I don't serve in the Senate. If they choose to go in and filibuster it, if they go to it, in fact, we always live in this world of what if goes on the other side of the building. If they go to the bill on Monday and they choose to filibuster till Friday, that's on them. That's their sandbox. That's a lot of waking hours, a lot of little sleep, and it is what it is. I mean, I've always stood for constitutional initiative petition reform, where the voters need to be informed. Our Constitution needs to be protected, and we must protect ourselves from out-of-state interests. So we have passed IP reform out of this body 6 years now. Our members have stood by that. We had a press conference here not but a week ago. We ask that it be brought up. We stand strongly behind that. And I welcome the Senate to bring it up Monday and hopefully just truly the bill.
Last question.
What are you doing next week?
Oh. I had meetings today on what we're going to do. I mean, we hope to be in session. We're signed up through 6 o'clock on the 17th, and I hope that we're diligently working for the citizens of Missouri through that. Predicated upon that, though, is the other side of the building working for the citizens of Missouri through 6 p.m. on the 17th as well. We have a number of Senate bills on the calendar, as you perhaps noticed. We will be working through Senate bills, I imagine. Representative Patterson, our floor leader, has done a phenomenal job of packaging some things together to send over to the Senate. I imagine we'll continue to do that. We'll wait to receive packages back from the Senate, and our leadership team that we have over here that I'm proud to be with will work hard to push our agenda forward for the citizens of Missouri.
FRA is now in your chamber. Do you expect smooth sailing with the FRA?
Yes, I referred FRA to rules. I believe it'll have a rules hearing on Monday. committee hearing, budget hearing on Monday. Rules, hope Wednesday we can get to it, Thursday. It's critical to the budget that we just passed. I can't be more proud of my members.
Smith, are you carrying that over here?
I believe so.
Okay.
We just did a lot today. I can't be, like I said, more proud of my members. We'll tackle the FRA on Monday, and Representative Smith will have yet one more hurdle to clear that'll take a lot of hard work and that he's put his heart and soul into. So thank you all for coming. Look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you. I hope so.
I have a question that I'm very confused on. Okay. The $40,000 back in January.